Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm reporting live from my little cabin in the woods here in East Texas. And I'm so excited tonight because we have our author, Christine Nolfi, who's got The Passing Storm. It's a novel right here, everybody. And she is reporting in from Charleston, South Carolina, one of my most favorite places I've ever been because of Pat Conroy and the Citadel and South Abroad, and it's beautiful there. So what's the weather like?
It's chilly today. This is
What?
a chilly spring. It was gorgeous, 65, but it's chilly today. I'm in a sweater. I went out and took a nice walk, but
I would take it.
yeah.
It's been 85 degrees humidity here. And even though it's not that hot, it feels like you're just through the ringer. And we've had so many tornadoes go through. In fact, last Tuesday
You
night,
had a terrible amount of tornadoes.
I had to, the alarm went off, go for shelter on my phone, and I had to leave the book club meeting. It was right at 8 o'clock and I had to cut our poor author off. But I was pretty much sitting in my bathroom until midnight, and it was still going on at 2 a.m., but I went to bed.
Yeah, at a certain point you give up and go, well, if it's going to take me, it's going to take me.
Well, I grew up in Kansas, so I'm used to it. Now, we're here tonight because you've been blogging this week on the Pulpwood Queen Presents blog, and I love it because we get to see photos we haven't seen before. We get to hear about your family. We get to hear the backstory. And this is what our book club members are really interested in. They want to know who the author is. So I want to begin with just having you tell your story and then explain how this book came into being, and then we'll open it up for discussion questions. How's that sound?
It's a background on me.
Yes, we want to
Can
know.
you tell I'm a little bashful?
Oh no, you put up about your family and you adopted these kids. I want to hear the story.
I owned a small public relations firm in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been writing my whole adult life. The goal was always to get to the point where I could make enough money that I could sit down and write novels. And I think a lot of writers are like that. Until they save up enough money, they can sit down and write a book. I adopted my kids in my late 30s. I was late on a deadline and met a family. Had to drop the PR kid over to their house, and the wife opened the door. The president of the company, his wife opened the door and out spilled all these kids from the Philippines. So it was just, everything fell into place after years of trying to adopt. I found my kids fairly quickly. I had been planning on adopting 2 kids with my ex-husband, and I fell in love with the story of my 4 kids. They were abandoned in the jungle in Cebu. So I closed the little PR firm and spent years at the Cleveland Clinic healing their little bodies. There were just so many things that they just had a lot of health problems. They were near death when they were found by missionaries in the Philippines.
Gosh, that's an amazing story. How old were they?
They were, again, this is the developing world. So we think they were 3, 4, 5, and 7. My 2 youngest daughters that were probably 3 and 4, they weighed 24 pounds. They were wearing baby clothes. But kids who've been malnourished, if they get proper nutrition in time, they catch up. So if you look at my kids now as adults, they're all in their 30s. The 3 girls are now married. My son I think he's thinking about it. And my husband, I'm remarried. We have a blended family. Barry has 2 kids also in their 30s. So, and we now have 3 sons-in-law, and looks like 2 grandchildren on the way.
Oh my gosh, your family is growing. That's amazing. Good for you. We've had a lot of our authors that have adopted children from biracial, different countries. And kids need homes and
yeah. And sibling groups don't always find homes. And
exactly.
I didn't want to adopt a baby. I wanted to adopt sibs, knowing that it takes longer to find homes for these kids. And they're great. I mean, if you saw them today, you wouldn't believe that they had been through what they'd been through. But we were fortunate at the time. I lived near the Cleveland Clinic, and they got expert care and great psychologists to work with them. And they're miracle kids.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Have you ever thought about writing about that?
Well, adoption and abuse and how people can heal, all of those themes find their way into my books. I haven't yet written anything directly about the adoption of my children because I wanted to wait until they reached their 30s. I didn't want to write anything in my books before they were mature adults. So
Right.
maybe in upcoming books. But in The Passing Storm, the teenager, Quinn Galecki, his story is absolutely informed from all the case studies over the years I read before I finally reached my kids. And in The Passing Storm, he's one of these kids who has been through a lot. But if there are adults who reach out in a town or a city, even if parents are not there for their kids, they can make it. And that was part of the point of The Passing Storm, is he has a connection with the main character. She owns a farm in Ohio, and she helps him.
Yeah.
Am I talking too much?
It's no, we want to know more. It's so important. If a child just has at least one person they can confide
Yes.
in and trust.
Yes,
And
if
for
you're
me,
a
that was
teacher
my
or
teachers and my
yes.
librarians. Yeah. So good
Yeah,
for you.
they can actually make a difference. And there are a gazillion studies on kids in abusive homes, how they can heal if there's somebody in their network to help. It doesn't even have to be a family member, and it makes a huge difference.
Have you ever read any Gary Paulson books?
I don't think so.
He's probably one of the most prolific middle grade and teen and up reader. He's won every award, but Gary had very unusual parenting. His father was in the military, and it was a tough life, and it was a librarian that saved him. And whenever he did, I used to be a children's bookseller before I was a book publisher's rep, and I've heard Gary speak on many times on if it hadn't been for this librarian who took him in.
The healing power of books.
Yes. So the story is amazing, and you've been writing. And what made you want to be a writer? Did you have parents that read to you?
Both of my parents were heavy readers, and my late mother used to tell people I taught myself to read at age 2. I don't know if that's true because she's gone. How could I check that and verify it? But she swears that they found me in front of a TV set. This was the early 1960s when they used to scroll the Pledge of Allegiance on TVs. Perhaps you all remember this.
Oh, I remember.
She swears that I was reading it and somehow at age 2 had started picking up. I can't remember a time when I wasn't writing, honestly.
Really?
But I think that's true of a lot of novelists, because I've talked to other writers, and most of us tend to be doing this since childhood.
Yes, it's so true. But the more you read to a child, that's how they learn to read.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, you can talk about all phonetics and all these different things, but if you really want a child to read and read well, you just read to them. That's what I did.
And children that grow up around a lot of books, which I bet everybody listening to this, we are so lucky that someone gave us all of that richness in our lives. I mean, my house when we were growing up, my mother she always had a book in her hand. So there were always books.
Yeah, only books we had in our house were my parents' college textbooks and Reader's Digest condensed books. I read them all. I read everything.
Those were great. Those were wonderful.
Yeah, I read them all. But I think that now my house, it's pretty much lost its foundation because I owned a bookstore. So you can imagine how many books I had in my house. I think close to, when I had to move, I think I was getting close to 10,000, and I had to downsize. I couldn't give them away. People didn't want them, and it just made me cry. It just made me cry.
Kathy, when we moved from Ohio, I had a farm in Ohio. When we moved down to Charleston almost 11 years ago, I donated a ton of my books to a homeless shelter in Cleveland, like a rehab center. They wanted all of them. They sent a truck out and they took all these books for the rehab center. So
I tried everything. Now there's a used bookstore down the road. he has the biggest online selling of, I think, anybody in the country. He's got 100,000 books. He goes, man, I would have taken those books, Kathy. And I go, I really wish we ended up taking them to like Goodwill or somewhere because we couldn't, but I still buy books. I mean, it's just crazy. I have so
I do too. I love having a physical book in my hands.
Yes, me too. I have to read the hard copy of my book. So authors out there, if you're listening to me, get me your book to read. Do not send me an e-reader because Mandy knows my eyes are shot. I can't type AND for the life of me anymore because I can't see the A and the S, the difference. So I have them handy, but I'm 65. I mean, things wear out. So
Kathy, when I'm writing a book, I'm printing it out and I'm editing. I have my regular glasses and my computer glasses, and I have a pair of thick bifocals when I'm writing a novel and I'm editing by hand with my big heavy, and then I'm typing it back in.
So much better.
I'm 63. Our eyes go.
Well, and if you've read as much as I have my entire life, and
Hi, Mandy.
Not in the best circumstances. So, under the bed, in the tree house, whatever.
Right. We've used these eyes.
So are your kids big readers?
I'm embarrassed to say, well, English was a second language.
Yeah, I know.
One of my kids was at work one day and walked into the cafeteria and somebody was reading one of my books. I think that impressed that child, but do they actually read a lot? I think they're too busy starting families and buying houses.
It'll come because, there's a point in the 20s where they're going to college and stuff, and they're so focused on getting their studies done and everything they're reading is textbooks. But my kids, they're always telling me what they're reading. So I feel like I did good. So.
Well, after I adopted my kids, for a couple of years, I had every noun in the house. I had a sticky note on it, share a table wall. I mean, my house looked kind of silly, but to help them learn the language because they spoke Cebuano, a dialect from the southern part of the Philippines.
I've never heard of that before. That's a new language to me.
Yeah, Tagalog is the main language of the Philippines.
No, that.
But my kids are from the southern part, so they spoke Cebuano. There are actually quite a few languages in the Philippines.
Yeah, I know. I love India, everything Indian, and there's 565 dialects.
Let's go to India.
Let's do.
Fun.
That's where I want to go. So
I'm going too.
Okay, I'll call you. But we're here tonight with a bunch of our friends and readers and authors, and I know they have some questions, and if they don't, you guys, in her book, this is really wonderful. In the back of her book, she also has a wonderful section of book club questions. And I want to know, did you write these or the publisher?
I wrote those.
Thank you. Because I remember when the publisher said, we can write them. I said, no, what I did is I wrote the questions I wanted people to ask. So maybe we can kind of go over that list a little bit too.
Sure.
Does that sound like fun to everybody? I'm going to put my glasses on and I'm going to do that first, and then we're going to open it up for discussion. It's not very long.
And I would like for Christine to read a little bit.
Woo, yeah, Christine. That would be great. Okay.
I'm not a great reader. I'm better at writing, but sure, if you want me to.
So your first, we'll have you read. You want to read first?
Whatever you want me to do.
Mandy, you want to read first?
I would like you to read a small part.
Okay.
Do you want me to start at the beginning?
Yeah.
I was not prepared for this.
Oh.
Okay. Again, a little bashful here.
Oh.
Trying to get over it.
I've got it open. Okay.
Okay. Are you ready? He never worked during school hours, yet there he was inside the bustling craft emporium, stocking shelves near the front. Snow whirled through the air, a battering of cold pinpricks on her cheeks. Wiping away the dampness, Ray took hesitant steps toward the shop and peered through the display window. A dark pulse of grief pierced her deeply. Why wasn't he at the high school with the other kids? What right did he have to disregard their unspoken agreement by putting in hours on a Tuesday? Ray avoided the shop whenever he worked. Saturdays, too, if he was on the schedule. Her office was only 3 doors down on Chardon Square, and Ray missed the spontaneous stop-ins she'd once taken for granted, especially now when she needed her closest friend as a bulwark against the sorrow. But she didn't have a better solution to avoid running into Quinn Galecki other than ensuring they were never in Una's Craft Emporium at the same time. Under normal circumstances, she wouldn't have dropped by this early in the day. Between the art classes and Una's current flash sale, the place was particularly busy. The Emporium on the corner of Chardon Square was a treasure chest for the craft enthusiast. Shelves brimmed with bottles of paint and jars of beads for jewelry making. Bolts of fabric vibrated with color, as if to steal attention from the tubs of silk flowers displayed in the shop. Near the back of the store, a group of toddlers in plastic smocks and their mothers, in easy white vinyl aprons, were seated at a long table finger painting. Older customers looked on, smiling at the tots or winking at their mothers. A happy scene, as warm and welcoming as sunlight. Ray shivered in the cold air. Don't go inside. Should I keep going?
That's great. I love it. I love the beginning of it. It really got you going and everything. But
Kathy, my
very
kids used to
well.
come home from school and they would hear me cackling because I was reading. I have to read dialogue out loud as I write
I do
to make
too.
sure the pacing and that the different characters sound like I envision them. And they would come in from school and it'd be like, yep, mom's in front of a computer reading out loud again, cackling.
Do you read the different characters in different voices?
I'm not that talented, but in my head they have different voices. But yeah, my kids are like, oh, there goes mom again. She's reading in front of the computer.
I read everything I wrote out loud because if it didn't sound like me, I'd cross it out and start over.
Exactly. And there's a pacing in it. There's a music to literature and you have to hear it out loud. I can have the computer do that dictation thing, but it's not the same as when you're composing and then you read it out loud and then you edit. And my books go through a lot
It's
of
too flat.
revisions. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Computer is just too flat.
Yeah, it's just, it isn't what's in my head.
I love it. Well, your first book club question, I'm going to read it because you wrote this for a reason. Discuss how the white hurricane alters Ray's life as she begins to keep secrets from the people she loves. Would she have kept those secrets if she had lost Connor during the blizzard instead of Hesper? Well, there's a wide open question. And why did you write that? That there's just something you wanted to talk about, or?
Well, if there hadn't been a certain choreography to Ray's life, the entire story would have been different. And I think we've all had experiences where if one thing had been different, we can see looking back that it would have changed the trajectory of so many things. And the white hurricane in Ray's life was like a starting point that led to a terrible conclusion that changed when she met Quinn and started to heal the past.
Yeah. If anybody wants to jump in on any of this discussion, just, hit that little raise your hand on the reaction button, Mandy, and I'll watch for it. It has a significant life event, good or bad, ever led you to keep a secret from someone you love? Now, this is what you're asking the audience. So, hey, it's your turn, you guys. Has a secret kept you? Anybody want to answer it? They're not going to tell.
Nobody wants to admit it. Well, and sometimes we keep secrets from loved ones because we think it's better to do that. And maybe sometimes it is, but it's a pretty murky, is it wise to keep secrets from loved ones? You could justify it saying, no, I'm protecting my husband, my child, my cousin. Are you? We have to ask these questions.
I've kind of come to the conclusion in my life that the reason why we have so many problems in this world is secrets.
Yeah.
People telling a lie and then they have to tell another lie to cover that lie. I go, if people would just be honest, and you can be honest without being cruel, you can be kind, but you need to tell the truth. Okay. So nobody wants to come forth. Nobody's
Well, I'll just say, so in my first marriage, I got married really young, and my son was 6 weeks old the first time that my husband hit me. And it was like so embarrassing. I mean, it was scary and, whatever, but it was embarrassing. And he was, immediately sorry, whatever. So it's like, I didn't say a word. And then it happened again, it's just like, I lied. I mean, God, for years, Justin was 6 when I started working at Vanderbilt, and everybody was like, because I was always happy, because I just wanted, my son to, be surrounded by happy, right? And yeah, it is funny how, I started just because it was an embarrassment, and I didn't know what to do, and how that just grew, and it's like my whole life was a lie. People thought that they would just look at me and I was like happy and, had this look of a entitled person or whatever. And they just thought that I lived a spoiled life, and they had and they just had no idea when
But you created a
left
shelf
my
to hide the
husband.
pain.
Yeah. And so when things got really bad, and when I left him, it was in the middle of the night. I had to go to work the next day because I couldn't, I just had so many responsibilities. And he called and was threatening to kill me, come to work and kill me. And it's like, I'm sitting there, and it's like all my coworkers, like everybody around me, and nobody had a clue. Like, they just didn't have a clue. So when I had to take off work for my divorce, and people were like, what? Like, you're getting divorced? Like, they had no idea.
Right.
And I realized, good God, I had gotten so good at lying.
I think sometimes as women, we think we should carry more pain than we actually should. I think, not that this doesn't happen to men too, of course it does, but
Yeah.
it seems to me that a lot of women, our first instinct is whatever the pain is, we can carry this water. And so we hide those secrets and shouldn't, because there are people that come right out of the woodwork when you admit, hey, I need help. They're there. We just don't always.
And so many women that I worked with that we were friends, but they didn't even really know my personal life, but they thought that we were so close and good friends that when it came out, because it got worse, and they actually had to call security at Vanderbilt because they were worried that he was going to really do something.
I'm
my
sorry you had to
friends
go
then-
through that.
Oh, it was a long time ago, and it's I mean, I'm sorry. I hate
No,
for
it's
anybody.
not. It was a long time ago, but those are deep wounds. We carry those wounds.
Yeah, but so a lot of those women that then they opened up to me, and I, found out things they were going through, and they said how much I helped them, and that's when I thought, I'm never going to do that again. And when I write, I write about that stuff a lot, because I just think of how when women said just hearing the stories, helps so much. So yeah, I'll never.
No one get through.
And
None of us get through this life without we don't get through it unscathed. We all carry deep wounds, and
yeah.
But it does seem to be an instinct of many women that we're just supposed to carry as much water. If it keeps pouring into the bucket, we're going to lug that. And we shouldn't, because there are people there for us.
Well, right. And I didn't realize how many people that would have gotten help sooner if I would have spoken my truth, but they looked at me and then they were intimidated because they thought that I had this wonderful life that they didn't feel they could open up, and share, or it's just so weird when it's over, when it's past. It's never
over. And then you
over,
give someone else the courage to come forward.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love on the back of your book, I just love the first in the cruelest of seasons, there is still hope.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just, I love that so much.
I think that was
Okay.
for my children because they had, my mother was an alcoholic, which was very difficult to grow up with. There are 6 kids in my family, and us 3 older kids, they called us the big kids and the little kids. I think the 3 of us older kids always felt some guilt because we got a part of a decent childhood, and then her drinking was worse for the 3 younger kids. And with my children, because of everything they went through, and sometimes it pops back up. We carry these wounds. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm over it now. We carry these wounds for a lifetime, and it's okay if sometimes they sting again. And so what I'm trying to teach them is you recognize it. It's okay to feel that pain. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean those terrible things are coming back, and you're stronger for it. And even in the cruelest things we go through, there's always hope. There's always love. There's always someone out there for us. We just have to be aware of it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Great message, really fantastic message. And but we get so caught up in that moment sometimes. I call it the blue funk.
Yeah.
Andy and I stayed up one night, almost all night long, talking about this, didn't we, Andy? I don't even remember. She goes, you know what time it is? And I go, I have no idea. What time was it?
Oh, I don't, like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, we talked all night. Yeah, it was
And
great.
it was, because just a blue, was it blue funk or was it, but it was a blue moon. But it was like, it was perfect. Yeah, you just kind of, sometimes you just sink, but it doesn't mean you're sunk.
No, exactly. And it's okay to feel those feelings again. They don't have to go away. We can carry them, but if we share them, they're easier to carry.
Well, I think that's why a lot of authors write books, because they want to right a wrong. They want to write the ending that they want to see, or address the situation in some way. In the 22 years I've been writing The Public Queen and in my book life, when I talk to authors, they all say, I write this story whether I got paid or not. I had this story in me, and some of them become successful, some of them don't, but they keep writing. And I think it's just something that it's our way of resolving issues. So it's like therapy. So
books are absolutely therapy. I mean, haven't you been healed from something you read in the past? There are so many books that move you or alter how you look at things, or let you walk in someone else's shoes.
That's why I picked these books. That's why I picked these books, Christine, because every single story, whether it's something you like or not, you're going to gain something from it. You're going to walk in somebody else's shoes for a while. A lot of people don't understand why I pick the books that I pick. I put a lot of thought into the books that I pick, because I want to talk about these things, because the only way to peace and world peace and everything is by having a conversation. The less we talk to each other, the more we assume, we write the story of what we think we're thinking. And so if you just talk to somebody, I always tell somebody, if you have a problem with somebody, call them up. Say, hey, I do it. When I had my beauty shop, I learned that a long time ago. If somebody said something, I just call them up and say, hey, I heard, is that right? And they'd say, oh my gosh, no, that isn't what I said at all. And, and then we'd always laugh about it. But I misunderstood you. I thought you meant no. So, the best thing to solve a problem is have a conversation. That's what we're doing tonight. So what do you guys think that are sitting out there in book club land? Anybody want to make a comment on the power of reading a book, how it can change lives? Anybody even think about that? I'm going to make you uncomfortable.
They're all introverts. I'm not the only one.
Well,
I think James is going to say something.
Okay, James.
Oh, Rebecca's hands.
How'd you know I was going to say something?
Because you took your mute off.
Yeah. Well, this was in Oak Park, Illinois, and I was early grades, first grade, second grade. And there was a librarian, Julia Mays, at the local library who had Saturday morning for kids. And that was magical. And so I went with somebody down the street every Saturday morning, and we just fell into these worlds of books and never forgot her. And the library is named after her now. So
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah.
Great story. How
And-
wonderful.
In college, I read Of You in Bondage by Somerset Maugham. And that sort of clinched it. I just knew I was going to write. And
Did you ever?
I thought I would write kind of a biography or fictional biography of my grandmother, who was married at married, a mother, and a widow at 16. And I think it was the epidemic, the 1919, was it? Epidemic that took her husband. She didn't talk about it much.
Was it yellow fever?
The pandemic of
The Spanish flu.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, that couple tidbits from me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. That's really great. Well, as we proceed on with these questions, it's not that many more. Another one that you said is, how does the weather?
Rebecca, were you gonna? You had
I
your hand up,
was.
but you took it
Okay,
down.
go ahead, Rebecca.
Well, yeah, I mean, I pulled it down because I didn't want to just hold it up there for the whole time. But it's interesting to me, Christine, that you felt uncomfortable reading, where you're very comfortable writing, but reading out loud, you demurred and felt that you don't read very well, and you did read very well, actually. But
thank you.
I have the same sort of feeling. Kathy was asking us to ask questions, and I think people hang back, not so much because maybe introverts, but as a writer, we're so concerned with words that when you speak off the cuff, you don't always have an opportunity to formulate your ideas and so forth. And so I was just this is a strange question, but I was just curious, why you feel uncomfortable reading your work, whereas, writing and presenting your work to be read by others is not such a discomfort.
Honestly, I'm a little phobic in public because I had a handicap as a child and had one of the right side of my body is larger than the left. You can't tell now that I'm in my 60s, but I had a lift on my left shoe. I looked like a polio kid in childhood and went through, the big bully on the playground and getting beaten up. So, and I'm aware of this. I mean, I'm 63 years old, but I still get kind of nervous anytime I feel like I'm the center, having gone through childhood where you just, if you're the handicapped kid, you're getting picked on. And I know rationally this is silly. I'm a mature woman now. That's a long, long time ago, but that stuff kind of gets knit into your instincts somehow, I guess.
So when you're reading, then all eyes are on you.
Yes, right, exactly.
But when you're writing, you're in your private space, and,
right?
And you can
and you're safe. You're
unleash yourself without everybody staring at you.
Right.
So I think that is the magic of the written word, is that it creates these spaces that we can all enter into and escape. And sometimes we enter into uncomfortable places. I mean, some stories disrupt our bubbles and make us question what we thought was appropriate and so forth. But I think that's one of the beauties of writing, is that it provides a cover, it provides escape, but it also provides a voice. So you, the child who felt self-conscious, can be this woman who creates these wonderful stories for all of us to enjoy. So thank you for that.
Well, well, in retrospect, and if anybody that has had a disability, I am so thankful I had that disability, because the first time I ran, I was 12 years old. I had a surgery to slow the growth on the one side. So through childhood, because I couldn't do what other kids could do, one, I was already an avid reader, and two, I was dreaming things up. So maybe if I'd been able to run around with the other kids, and I turned into like the neighborhood storyteller, I could tell the other kids stories. so I'm thankful now that I came into the world with a disability that led me to this.
Exactly. That's amazing. And Rebecca, I think you answered a question I've been pondering for 22 years. I haven't been able to figure out my entire life why nobody joins in to the conversation when we have an author live and they take time out of their, and it's because most of y'all are writers and you have time to ponder what you're going to write. You don't have the time to think about it. But
Kathy, we can't edit ourselves when we're talking, and we're used to being able to.
But one thing I learned, I grew up in a small town where my best friend's father was the district attorney, and it was a family of attorneys. And I used to go to their house, and they had very, very debated discussions that some people would have thought they were fighting, but they weren't. They were debating. And I found that when I started joining those conversations, I learned about what I thought. So the more you join in conversations with the authors, the more you go, oh, just like what you just shared, Rebecca, what I have wondered, I go, Mandy says, don't jump in too quick. And I go, well, it gets so uncomfortable if nobody says anything. And I think that we have to be a little uncomfortable sometimes.
We have to be uncomfortable. And, and also I think Christine has noted the importance of silence too. I think in one of your blogs, you wrote about that. I'm trying to remember, but
honoring silence.
I think that we don't like silence. And so we want to jump in, but sometimes silence becomes a positive space, I guess, for creativity.
Absolutely. And I question, because of the last 2 years where many of us have sensibly restricted how much we go out and we're more careful. I wonder, what is this doing to our conversational skills? I mean, think about it. Think of all the places that you would have wandered around in 2019 and just struck up conversations. And many of us have really pulled back on all that. What is it doing to our ability to converse?
Well, it's so when I was little, I stuttered. So if I have the choppy, whatever.
See, I don't think you have a choppy speaking pattern at all. But again,
well, I mean, I don't
childhood disability.
A lot of sentences. Like there are a lot of sentences, and it's so funny. I don't realize it at the time because I'm like a tongue stripping up, so I know something else. And then when I'm listening to a video, like a recording, I'm like, I didn't finish 3. I had to stop and start. But there's a great quote that says, I talk better with my hands than my mouth for writers. And isn't that great?
Yeah, I love that.
That is.
I'm sometimes too loud, but I have 5 siblings, and I think we probably were shouting over each other, Mom, Dad, so I sometimes catch myself way too loud. The decibel is.
Yeah, well, I'm way too fast, because that was how I got over the stutter, was just push through it and fast. So I'm like a fast talker, not a Southern twang. It's usually a Southern drawl. It's not a lot of fast Southern talkers. So it's a weird combination, but
I think it's lovely.
Oh, thank you.
I love your voice, Mandy. I love it. Were you the oldest of your siblings, Christine?
Me? I'm the third from the top.
Third, so kind of in the middle.
Fortunately, was in the middle. Yeah, there's more adventure in the middle. They're not always looking at you to get this done first. You could get away with more. And then having a disability. So they probably cut me more slack because of that.
Wow.
My brother is the oldest and then 5 girls. So thank
Oh,
goodness he was born
wow.
first, or he would have been lost in this herd of women.
Oh my goodness, that had to have been something for him.
Yeah.
What a responsibility, Was your father present, in everything or?
He was the vice president of a big department store in Ohio. Actually, that Christmas movie, I never remember the name of it, with the boy that wants the rifle.
Oh,
Story.
yeah.
Yes,
The
yes.
Christmas story.
Story.
He was vice president of Higbee's when that was filmed, and we were all like in our late teens and 20s, and he wanted us to be in it. We're like, Dad, no. Who knew it would become a classic? So he wasn't always present because he traveled the world buying merchandise. So my poor mother, no wonder she started drinking. I don't know how she handled 6 kids, and he'd be in Asia or South America or Australia.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, is anybody else in your family storytellers?
Yes, actually, my niece, who is almost exactly 20 years younger, Katie Nolfi, is a filmmaker in Los Angeles. Sometimes when Google pulls my name up because somebody talked about me on a blog, it now says Kathleen Nolfi. So I say she takes after me. She's a writer,
Hey.
filmmaker, lives in Hollywood.
Oh my goodness. Well, her life has certainly changed the past 2 years, that's for sure. Because they haven't been doing a whole lot of films and stuff. So,
She's still been pretty busy.
okay. Anything that she's done that we might know?
She did a film that was made in Denmark. Shoot, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for all of this. I could do a quick
Okay.
Google.
Well, you'll just have to share it with us on the blog. In
Okay.
Denmark, what's our favorite show? Not Rita. Was Rita done in Denmark? Mandy? I can't hear you.
Did she lose the
My
audio?
mouse is not cooperating. Sorry. It's like,
Okay. Was Rita set
hit
in
my mute.
Finland? Where was it set? It was in
I'm Googling it because I can't.
that's our favorite show. It's Mandy. I watched it and I said, Mandy, you got to watch this show because I watch a lot of foreign shows. And it's about a school teacher, but she's not like anybody you've ever seen before in your life.
Well, Kathy, I'm not the only Christine Nolfi that's a writer.
Really?
I'm not there, which I never would have known unless Facebook messed something up years ago. There's a Dr. Christine Nolfi in Italy. I always wonder if we're related. I think she's passed away now, but in the 60s and 70s, she wrote a lot of health literature.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not the only
Nolfi is
Christine Nolfi
Italian.
writer. I'm
Nolfi-
sorry.
Nolfi's Italian?
Yeah, on my dad's side. My mother's side, French and English. My dad was Italian.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so there were 2 Christine Nolfi writers, interestingly enough.
You don't want to know how many Kathy Murphys there are.
More than 2?
There were 5 when I went to Kansas State University, and I was always getting the wrong transcripts. It was really, and we all had the same middle name, Kathy Louise Murphy. Yep, it was horrible. And I would get the physics majors transcripts when I go meet with my advisor, and they were straight A's, and I go, no, that's not me. I don't know anything about physics or mathematics, so that's
You should have said, okay, I'll take those grades. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So that's why, it's hard. Just look how many Kathys there are in our book club. Kathy Ramsberger, Catherine Casey. We have, at one girlfriend convention, we had 6 Kathys. It was so, Kathy, we'd all turn our head. And so that's why I go by Kat, because it just gets crazy when so many people have your same name. So, so you've written, now I was looking at your bio right before we started and everything. You had another book, The Road She Left Behind. I have not read that book. I'm going to have to, how long ago was it that you wrote that book?
That came out in 2019.
Well, that wasn't that long ago, but there's a lot of books here. What I do is when I like a book, I usually go back and try to read some of the books that they've written before or after, or, and I like to read people's body of work. Is anybody else the same way? Yeah. Yes.
Well, I was very fortunate. I tried for years to sell to New York, and then when that didn't work, at one point, New American Library wanted the first books I'd written, but they just weren't sure where to place my work. I wasn't really writing romance. I wasn't really writing mystery. I was blending these genres, and they weren't sure where to put it. So I decided to independently publish that first series, and I got lucky. The readers liked it. Back when BookBub was starting, when it was just little BookBub, one of their editors enjoyed those books, and so it was easy for me to get listed again, and that helped grow it. And then the series did well enough that Lake Union reached out to me and asked if I would submit something to them. And so now the book that comes out in September will be my 6th book for Lake Union.
Yay.
So there are other writers just as talented. I got lucky because you think about all the people that write, and sometimes just the things fall into place.
Yeah, I think you have to be at the right place at the right time. But that's
Yeah.
why Mandy and I try to look for books that of authors that aren't really big yet or haven't been discovered in a big way. And sometimes it's really surprising. I always think of Linda Bloodworth Tomlinson because she was a television writer, and you may know her from Designing Women and Evening Shade, and she was a prolific series writer, but she wrote a book and she couldn't get anybody to take her seriously. And she goes, New York tends to think that if you write a book and you're a television writer, it's not going to be very good. And she asked me to read it. And it's called Liberating Paris. It's fantastic. If you guys haven't read it, you need to read it. It's about, and you all can relate to this, it's about a story about a group of kids that all grew up together. They all are now running their parents' business in a small town, and a big box store moves in out on the freeway, like Walmart, and it starts hurting their livelihood. And, I thought it was a remarkable story. And it was kind of a Big Chill moment. You remember the movie Big Chill?
Yeah, sure.
Everybody's still trying to figure out their place in the world. It was a great book, but I'm going to read your other books, and I'm looking forward to this next one. I hope you'll send Mandy and I a copy of it.
But and if there are any debut writers listening to this, part of it is you just can't give up. We've all had, times where it just doesn't work. I didn't earn any money at this for several books. Every time a book would do well, the money went back into the business. I was raising 4 kids when I started writing. There wasn't any money for publishing, and you just have to keep plugging away. And sometimes, for whatever reason, a book finally makes it. I think too many people write a debut and they think, oh my gosh, that I didn't get very many readers. I should do something else. And they shouldn't. If you feel that there's another book in you, write the book. Find the time. I used to get up at 5 a.m. before I had to make lunches for the kids.
Rebecca has her hand up. Go ahead,
Girl,
Rebecca.
you are speaking to me. I'm telling you, debut writer, nobody notices, but what I'm hearing from you is that, you started out with you started out independently publishing, and you said you got lucky, but you also worked really hard.
Yeah.
And as you just admitted, you didn't give up. And I think that's the important story, is we all have stars in our eyes that we're going to be the next New York Times bestseller. And not everybody gets to have that party, so I think
most of us are never going to get to have that party.
Yeah, but there's still something worthwhile in the effort. So I really appreciate your story there, and take heart from what you have.
And sometimes readers will lift you up in ways. A reader sent me an email a couple years ago and wanted me to know that she had a friend who was dying, and she gave her the 5 Liberty books, Sweet Lake, Treasure Me, Second Chance Girl, the first books I'd written, that she wanted her friend to have something hopeful to read her last week. And I thought,
oh my
is
God.
there any award I can is there anything that tops that ever? No. If we reach somebody else on that deep human level, our work here is through. We did what we were supposed to do, and let somebody else have that big party.
That's right.
It's more about the human connection.
It really
But
is.
yeah, I worked really hard and didn't know if I'd ever make a nickel. And the kids were very good about it. And my husband, I remarried, and he was like, honey, keep trying. I wouldn't even read reviews, and he'd read the good reviews and the bad reviews. And I'd be like, I got to make lunches for the kids, and I've got to write the next book. I don't have time to worry too much about. And then you get those letters from readers that just take your breath away. And it's like, yes, this is why we should write. If you're only writing for the big party and I'm going to be at the top of the New York Times, you're not writing for the right reason.
Yeah.
Full
Thank
stop.
Yes, Eileen has her hand raised.
Well, you're talking to me too, just like Rebecca. It's so hard to, I had moderate success with my debut, and it's still getting some attention, but it takes so much work to get to the next one. And how do you just keep up with it? And then when you marketing and publicity, and that's why Kathy and Mandy, this group is just so supportive and so helpful, and get to know a lot of other authors this way too, and hear their stories. So I really appreciate that. Christine, your first 5 books are, you just named them. What
Second
are
Chance Grill, Treasure Me. It's called the Liberty series. And I'm a bit of a patriot. I'm very optimistic about this country, despite the bad things that happen. So
Good for you. Yay.
I am. I love this country.
Me too.
See, and I think we can be better than we are. Anyway, the books are the Liberty series, Second Chance Grill, Treasure Me, The Impossible Wish, 4 Wishes, and The Tree of Everlasting Knowledge.
And what time period are they? Karen?
Everything I've written so far has been present day, set in present day. Although I would like to write a historical about the French Huguenots, because I'm living in Charleston, where my French ancestors came in the 1600s. So at some point I want to write a historical. But with regard to your debut, it was hard work in getting to the next book. You also have to remember that sometimes a book doesn't take off right away. Several years later, it might take off. You just never know. And if you're writing something that you are sure is good, as you're writing it, it's good, keep going. Don't gauge the success of that book in this moment in time. Just the way somebody said a little while ago, that sometimes I like to read somebody's body of work. There are tons of readers that are like that may discover your second or third or fourth book and go back, and then all those books lift. So you do it for the heart reason, and the rest follows.
Thank goodness John Grisham didn't give up on his first book, A Time to Kill, because he couldn't even get bookstores to, first book novelists. And then, he took off, and he only went back to the 4 bookstores that had him for that first book, and but look how many books he's written. And
look how many people went back and read A Time to Kill, and they even
Time to Kill.
Exactly. And didn't Stephen King, it wasn't until second or third book that really took off, and he went out and bought his wife hot rollers because they were so broke he couldn't think of anything else. She loved hot rollers.
Hot rollers, how cool is he?
Do you remember those?
Yeah, I still use them. Okay, take the fuzz out. But Lisa Wingate is one of her authors, and
she's wonderful.
30 books before We Were Yours broke the $1 million bestseller list. 30.
But she kept going because she knew she was touching people, and she was doing something good.
That happened, they went back and they started republishing with new covers all of her previous book, Tending Roses, which was her first book. So, I look at those, Milton Bradley, the big game guy. He was interviewed once, and they said, man, you've made so many games that become successful. And he said, oh, you just know about the ones that became successful. For every one that became successful, 100 of them failed.
Right.
The only
And how
way-
many manuscripts do we have? I don't know how many books I've written that I finished and went, oh, maybe not. Not now, this far into my career, but you know, sometimes you're writing for practice, and that's okay too.
I love what you said about if you're writing for the money or the party or whatever, you're
Forget
not
it.
right. You're not right. It's not, readers are going to know. They're going to
Yes.
know.
It,
When they
the
read
words
it.
won't resonate. You will not reach someone. And if it isn't about reaching people on a deep level, what is the point of reading fiction? And story is the most important thing humans will ever create. There's nothing more important than story. So
Absolutely.
we are tasked with something noble. Forget the party. If it comes, have a second glass of champagne. But that's not the reason to be writing.
So my new novella just came out, and a girl that I went to school with, we were friends when we were really young, and then like 10 years would pass, and and we don't, because we're in our 50s now, and it's like it's been forever. I woke up and there was a message on my machine, on my phone. She'd left it at 1 o'clock in the morning, and she's sobbing because she had just finished Oliver. And when I listened the first time, I was laughing because it was so cute. And then I listened to it the second time and I started bawling because she was just saying, and it was like, I just love you and I'm so proud of you. This is just it's just beautiful. And I thought, I don't care. There is no award or
Exactly.
award or recognition that would ever beat that. Like, no way.
And that's the reason to write right there. No pun
Yeah.
intended.
Yeah, and it's our job as the Pulpwood Queens is to give you guys a platform, and it's by all of us joining hands together and supporting each other and sharing each other's good news and lifting people up when we tumble, because not everything is going to, I get a message, all the time, I can't believe you didn't pick my book for a book club selection. And I go, well, we got over like 1,200 books.
I don't know how you go through the books.
Well, I still
You
have a
couldn't
few.
do your job.
It was hard. I actually took a break today and I took 3 Pulpwood Queen books that have come in, that I've hired to my trade, took them to lunch today. And the little waitress was like, and I was like, I have a system. Because I'll start, what I do is like, I'll read the first chapter. And if the writing's strong and if I'm interested, that goes in I'm coming right back to it, And then and then it's like, whoo, if they're all 3 that good. And then it's like, I can't remember which order that I got them in. Then I go to the middle and I'll read the middle, and then that's the one I'll start. And then I just put them in like 1, 2, 3. And then out of the
Well, thank you
100,
for doing all that work.
It's fun.
Well, there's
We
so
love to
many
read.
good books. Like, so funny because I'll finish one, and like we just got some new ones in, and I just called Kathy. I was like, "Did you get so and so?" Because it's so exciting that we get, like she said, we're have a platform where we're trying to get your books in front of the readers, and it's like it is exciting to think that, dang, even if we can't pick it because there was only so many slots for the
We
official
might pick
picks,
it down
that
the
is
road.
hard.
Yeah.
But we can still talk about them, and share them and
Celebrate
hard.
them.
And
Yeah.
celebrate them. That's the word. Celebrate them.
And
Right.
that's what our magazine's all about, is helping our authors, whether they're picked or not. We feature all our authors in our magazine who wants to, and I mean, Mandy gives away the pages. I swear, $25 a page is ridiculously low, but we were almost at 100,000 viewership. So I think we're doing something right. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
So we're excited. You're blogging with us all this week. And this is the time, if you want to think about what you're going to respond or ask, you can read her blog, think about it, and then you can post, because the more you post for her, the more she's going to post for you. And that's what we do. We try to help everybody out, and we try to bring in as many readers as we can to the conversation. And it's been hard because so many of the readers told me since COVID came, I don't even get on Facebook. I
Yeah,
don't even get, I can't do Zoom. I can't function. And I go,
yeah,
well, you know, you better get used to it, because even when the world opens back up, now we found out how to work without going to work.
yeah.
And it saves money, quite frankly. And people are more productive working without distraction than they are. So we've got to learn the new technology. Mandy's getting me up to par. But what is there something uh, that you haven't been asked about your book that you wish somebody that asked that you want to address?
I just want people to take away the theme that we're in a storm now. That was one of the inspirations for the book, is seeing that we were about to be hit by a pandemic. And I foolishly thought it would be like the Spanish flu in 1918. We're clearly in something much larger than that. But we get through even the worst times. And I know a lot of us feel hopeless. It's been a long 2 years, but we still have each other. These new technologies may be altering the world in positive ways that we can't yet foresee. And younger people are just inspiring the heck out of me, how they're rolling with the punches during this time. You know, my kids are all in their 30s. What is it like going through this as a young person? You know, starting family, just starting your life. And
Dating. Can you
yes, yes.
imagine?
What is this like for my nephew couldn't go to prom. They didn't have a prom the year he graduated. But we will make it through this. It is a passing storm.
It sure is. So I hope everybody reads the book. It's a wonderful story, and I'm looking forward to the next one. And I just can't thank you so much for jumping on board. I
Thank
know
you
you've
for
got this
choosing the
deadline.
book.
Well, that's we're really excited about I think the world is going to start opening up. I know that my book clubs are now starting to get back to meeting. My friends are traveling, and they went, all my travel buddies went to Europe, and it went well. And so I'm looking forward to hearing how that went, because, everybody's scared to travel, but I'm ready to hit the road, man. I'm ready to go out. So
Oh,
Oh,
now,
we're ready to
God,
party, aren't we, Kathy?
what do you got, Eileen? I can't see what it is you're sharing.
Oh, thank you, Eileen.
It's the passing storm.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
just see white. Yeah, I've got it right here. It's so funny. I have all the books stacked up by month of what we're having, but my daughter came over the other day, and I saw a stack of books by the door, and I go, wait a minute, what do you got there? And she goes, oh, well, I saw those books. I go, no, no, give those. I think she got out with a few of my books. So if I don't hold it, I've read them,
Smart
but
girl.
yeah, well, she's, I'm the library, but I'm happy she's reading. I'm happy she's reading. So
And this is such a beautiful cover.
it is a
I just
great.
want to.
Well, they were trying to come up with it's a suspenseful, it's tense in parts, but it's hopeful. So it took a long time to come up with this art.
They did a great
to convey the
job.
positive, even though it was she went through some trials.
Mhm.
I love this
Feel
cover.
strong.
I love the cover. I think it's absolutely beautiful. In fact, when I was
And
holding
purple
up
is
all
my
the
husband's
covers,
favorite color.
I
He
was
loves
holding up
purple.
all the covers for our book this month. They all had this kind of blue theme. It was weird
Yeah.
how it worked out that way. And they're all different, but they were each unique. So thank you, Christine. I look forward to, you've already got your blog ready for me to post tomorrow. You're just the best special author. I mean, the last 4 authors, I haven't had to do any prompts. They've got everything out there for me. I'm going, yay, finally. We've been doing this for a long time, but it's going to get better, everybody. So we got to get everybody back on board.
Yeah.
And James had suggested that that once a month we might have just a social hour of where we all just share good news. So I think next month, maybe we'll start during the summer. we'll have one night a month where we just have anybody who wants to come on board, just bring your own beverage. And we'll all just share good news and conversation, because Girlfriend Weekend only happens once a year, which is our annual convention. And, everybody thrives on it for a while after the fact, and then they get, caught up in their own lives. But it is an experience that is life-changing for me, because I had no idea I would be in this business. But it seems to be, we're hanging in there, aren't we, Mandy?
Yeah, we need to get into, for our social hour for that, we need to all get little party horns of whatever different varieties, but have them. And so when somebody, we're celebrating, everybody can
Toot their horn.
for them. Toot their horn.
I wonder
So
if
they don't have to toot their own horn.
I'm gonna have to look for a kazoo or something. I'll be sure and do that. That's a great idea. Well, Christine, thank you.
Thank
I have a
you.
feeling this will get us through the final days of this. So please read The Passing Storm, and we'll look forward to you posting the rest of this week. But jump on board. You can post once a day on the official Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys page. I tell the authors this, they never do it. They always say, well, you didn't post my, they put it on the wrong one. You can't post on the blog, you post on the book group. So post on the book group, and Mandy and I will get it approved once a day, any news, because I can't keep up. Y'all are winning so many awards and stuff.
Well, if you have more than one thing to share, you can post, but just don't post the same thing multiple times the same day. But if you've got 3 great things to celebrate, I didn't post 3 times. Yeah, like it's all about, just having fun on there.
That's so great. So we will see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I hope this has been another worthwhile. We always learn so much when we come together, and I take note of who shows up at the party. So thank you so much. And we'll see you tomorrow on the Pulpwood Queen Presents Her Picks blog. And thank you, Christine. You're terrific.
Thank you.
Have
Thanks,
a
Christine.
wonderful, wonderful night. Okay.
See you all tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.